I felt that it's imperative on me, it's a duty upon me to do something to help these people. And as a young 21, 22-year-old at the time, I was looking for any way that I could go to help them. I wasn't a practicing Muslim at the time, though. The only link that I had with these people was the fact that we had the similar faith.
The notion of ummah is very central to Muslims, and yet it is so potentially dangerous in your view.
The way it's been politicized, in itself, there's nothing wrong with it. The way it has been politicized is where I have the objection.
But either one has a link to brothers and sisters in faith internationally, or one doesn't.
Well, we have a link.
When British Muslims joined the jihad in Bosnia, their cause had the sympathy of most of the West and the support of the British military.
The British UN used to give us lifts. And we used to have a chat when they used to find out we were from England. Or where are you from? Oh, I'm from Birmingham. Or where are you from? Oh, I'm from Rochdale. Or I'm from Bradford. Or I'm from London. Or I'm from Liverpool. And, you know, we were like old mates.
Today it would be called terrorism, but at that time it was called and recognized as a noble concept of self-defense, i.e. jihad. And that is what a lot of people from different parts of the world went for, to help to defend the people in Bosnia who were being at the point of obliteration.
Jihad is an obligation for Muslims. It means to struggle.
Jihad is ordained for you.
If Muslims are under military attack from non-believers, they must take up arms.
Whoso fights in the cause of Allah and is killed or gets victory, we shall bestow on him a great reward.
The attempt to remove jihad from Islam is as if you're trying to remove great chapters, great verses from the Quran, and to do that would then be to dissect Islam and to destroy it, and that's impossible.
The idea of a global military jihad had been dormant for decades until the CIA and others revived it after the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Muslim fighters from around the world were encouraged to join the resistance against Soviet occupation.
Fighting the Soviets was legitimate because the country was invaded by them. And that was jihad, you know, sort of...
So it's illegitimate for people to fight British forces in Iraq and Afghanistan today, is it? For a Muslim?
There's an issue that many Muslim scholars hold it to be true, that fighting the West would be right.
So even a government advisor accepts that the same religious arguments that were used in Afghanistan a generation ago can now be applied to fighting British soldiers.
If young men feel that they could serve the Ummah better by actually standing with their brothers shoulder to shoulder in the battlefield and fighting against their enemies who've come in, foreign invaders, invaded their lands, you know, carpet bomb their villages, kill their women and children, if they feel that, well, they want to do more than just, you know, send money and clothes and you know, or whatever, then, you know, if that's what they want to do, then fine. They're entitled to do that.
While Britain is involved in a war in Muslim countries, the question is, which side are you on?
I think when it comes to the concept of justice and what's right and what's wrong, Islam tells us to stand up with justice. In the case of Afghanistan and of Iraq, the wars are unjust, they're illegal. The right to resist that occupation, according to international law and according to Islamic law, is something that's intrinsically part of the rights of the people there, the people like me and others support.
So even when that means supporting those who are fighting British soldiers?
Well, in the real sense, yes, in the sense that the British soldiers who are there for occupation. They're not in Britain, they're not defending British land. They're occupying other people's lands.
We've seen that Islam can place Muslims at loggerheads with the government when British troops are in Muslim lands. The London bombers claimed their actions were justified by Islamic teachings. It involved an interpretation of a ruling that tells a Muslim how to behave when living in a non-Muslim land. In Islam, covenants are central to the faith.
O you who believe, fulfill your obligations.
Muslims living as a minority amongst non-believers are either in a state of war, such as those denied the right to pray, or they live in peace with their hosts according to a set of agreements. Many scholars place importance on a covenant of security. In return for their safety and freedom, Muslims are not allowed to attack the nation that is their home. To hear if a theological justification for the London bombings can be argued, I arranged to meet a man who is now barred from entering Britain. Scholars who've said that the covenant between Muslims and the British government is broken have been arrested or fled the country. The rendezvous changed several times. One of the names he uses is Abu Muhammad. In the past, he came to Britain to address small groups in private houses. He's linked to Al-Qaeda and didn't want to show his face.
A Muslim in the UK should realize that we are in a state of war, and that covenant has been broken by the British government and by the Western allies.
So that there is no theological argument for a covenant?
There is no covenant at this point. We are in a state of war.
Was a theological justification then for the 7/7 bombings?
Of course, it was very justified, because Allah says if somebody is committed aggression against you, you commit aggression against him. If somebody is transgressed against you, you transgress against them the same way.
What about what the government says? People like yourself have misread the faith, that the true faith is one of love and living together and social cohesion within Britain.
That is not true. That's not true. That's what people who live on handouts, they say that because they live off British handouts. Is it really possible for you to live in harmony with them? No, because Allah said no. If the British government says yes, then you have a choice to make, calling Allah a liar or calling the British government a liar. I would be very careful in calling Allah a liar.